Welcome to UpSkilliT. This video is for beginners to Hibernate. Let's see how Hibernate helps us. Hibernate is a framework for object relational mapping. You are very good in JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. How Hibernate will help you. If you use JDBC, you will specify the driver, URL, username, password, database name, and then you will write some SQL queries that will communicate with the database. Say it can be CRUD, create, read, update, delete, these operations. Suppose think about the scenario, we have created a project for Oracle backend, Oracle database. How will you migrate it to MySQL or SQL Server or DB2 or some other database? It involves changing your source code. So that's a bad option to edit the code. The project once compiled, you do not want to change the code and do a recompilation. So there needs a configuration file. So Hibernate gives you a configuration file. You can download the Hibernate configuration template in our link upskilliT.com/configuration.zip. So often when you write a JDBC program, you would have done the routine work of coding like creating a query select star from employee with where condition order by group by. And then you will get a result set, get int of first column. You will say result set dot get the data type and second column, third column. So often you will do the repeat work. Insert into table name, say employees, values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the JDBC fashion. And if you see, if there are 5 question marks here, 5 columns, for example, you will set the parameters. If the statement is st, set int of first column and the value here. Second column, the value here. So these routine works are taken care by Hibernate. So how would you educate Hibernate that your table name is employees? And how would you inform Hibernate that your table has 5 columns? What are those columns? You would specify them in another configuration file called mapping file. So now you would arrive at 2 configuration files. One is Hibernate configuration file, which is an XML file. The next one is a mapping file for every entity involved in this. I would say entity and table, how it is related. Suppose the entity name is employees, Hibernate mapping file, .xml. Now, you would have learned about ER diagram somewhere. ER diagram, entity relationship. After this ER diagram is been drawn and you identify the relationships 1 to many or 1 to 1, 1 to many, and many to 1 or many to many. So once this ER diagram is identified, you are ready to do a Hibernate program. So what is this ORM, object relational mapping? If you take in the database side, you have relation. Table is an example for relation. And in the programming side, that is in the front end or model, you would say object. Suppose in an ER diagram there is an entity called employee. You can map this to object, that is employee.java here, and then in the database you would say employee table. Not necessarily both be the same name, it can be different also. That is why you need a mapping file called hbm.xml. In this mapping file, Hibernate mapping file, you would specify the class name and map it to the table name. They may be same or may be different. Similarly, the columns. If there is employee.java, you would have properties here. You know what are properties in Java? Non-public data members which are encapsulated using public getters and setters. So they are called as properties. These properties are mapped to columns of the table. Properties and columns may be same name or different name also. They are allowed. And the data types in Java, you would map with the data types in database SQL. So that is why this Hibernate mapping file is important. So the first configuration file for Hibernate configuration file will contains the information related to the driver, the URL, username, password, and the database name. The database name comes in URL itself. Apart from that, you would specify the dialect. When I said when you map the properties data types with the columns data types in the database, there are slight differences between database products. We call it as dialects. In language itself, if you take English, slight difference will be there in US English and UK English. You would agree with this even in any of your native languages. Tamil, the language slight difference will be there. So SQL is the common language used in most of the databases, but still there are little differences between MySQL and Oracle and DB2 or SQL Server. So that's what you would say as dialect. I will show you a sample Hibernate configuration file. Here I have choose MySQL dialect and the driver name I am using. And to use this driver, if you know JDBC, you know that there is a requirement called jar file. You can download the jar file from our upskillit.com/mysql-connector-java-the version.jar. You can download it free from Oracle website also. So this part driver and this URL JDBC MySQL localhost, and you use a port number here 3306 for MySQL, and the database I am going to create now in Workbench. Create database example1. The database is being created. Use example1. Refresh here. Example1 is being created. Now there will not be any table present in this database at this point of time. We would like the Hibernate framework to create the table for us. So I'm going to mention the database name as example1 here, and the username is root. There's no password for my MySQL. Now here, this provision to mention the mapping file. So we are going to have an example, an entity called employee. In Java, I am going to define the properties and then I would map them to create the table in the database. So Hibernate will create the table for me. So I'm going to create a project. The project can be a Java project, that means a console application. The project can be a dynamic web project, that means a web application, or it can be any type of project. So I'm going to show you a small Java project to do. First, Hibernate, a Java project. I'm going to create the entity class now. If you define the entity class properly, then the rest of the portions are taken care of by the Hibernate. Employee.java. Remember to use a package name, most commonly used model. Model is a package that represents the data definition and data access. Entity is a data definition, whereas the DAO class will access the database. So here, non-public, preferably private data members. I would like a primary key called employee ID of type int employee ID, first name, last name, and you know the Pojo class should have a constructor without argument. With argument, I will use the shortcuts in Eclipse to do that. A constructor using fields, getter setter, all the getter setters. I may also override the toString method for a quick testing purpose. The entity class is ready now. Now I'm going to create the configuration files here. The configuration files should be directly present in this SRC. If you keep them inside any packages, then you have to locate it properly when you address them. So I'm going to create an XML file now. Hibernate configuration file. The name of the file can be anything. If you name it other than this, you can specify it in your program. So there is a template for this Hibernate configuration file. Next, I am going to create this mapping file for employee class. Employee.hibernate mapping XML file. So there is a template for mapping file. I am going to fill the class name is employee. The table name, if I do not mention, will be employee only. I can give it as EMP. ID, the element ID refers to primary key. So the primary key of my class employee is employee ID. Remember, here you are giving the property name. Here you are giving the column name. employee ID. The type integer. Here it is int. Generator, auto generate. So I do not want to give the employee ID myself. I want Hibernate to use this increment feature to create. Then first name. This is property name and the column name I want is F name. The type is string. I am going to repeat for the next field, last name, L name. So that's all. Now, when I create an object of employee, I would not give the value for employee ID. So I need a constructor which accepts only the first name and last name. So I create a constructor which accepts only the first name and last name. Now I am going to create a DAO which will provide the methods to add employee, modify, delete and find employee. So this is employee DAO.java. I am using a main method for quick testing those methods. So the first method I am going to test is add employee. To create an employee, what are the informations you require? First name and last name. So I make it as employee as a parameter. So here I am going to write the code for Hibernate methods to create a session. To create session is from session factory. So that's the first one. Then I am going to build a session. I am going to open a session. So here I am going to build a session factory using the configuration file. Once I open the session, I will begin the transaction. Then I will do persist this object into the database and then I will commit. So those are the steps I am going to do. To do these things, I need the jar files, Hibernate jar files. So you can download Hibernate jar files from our website upskillit.com/hibernatejars.zip. Otherwise, you can also download it from hibernate.org/downloads free. So I'm going to include the jar files. Whenever you include the jar files to a Java project, add the jars to build path. Whenever you add the jar files to web projects, dynamic web project, add the jars to lib folder, which is directly present in webinf. So I'm going to add the jar files to my build path. Java build path, add external jars. It's poor practice to directly reference the jar files from C drive, F drive or D drive. I always suggest you to copy the jar files to your project location. Our project is first Hibernate, so it's better to create a folder called jars, paste them, and then refer them. So that when you ship this project to a pen drive or upload or download, the jar files also will be carried with your project folder. Once the jar files are added and you are using MySQL, so MySQL connector jar also should be added. Add external jar. Again, I copy this, go to my project folder, jars, paste them, apply. So you can use the build Hibernate functions configuration which belongs to Hibernate. Configuration belongs to Hibernate. Okay, let us check this reference libraries for Hibernate configuration. Okay. This one, org Hibernate configuration. Dot build session factory. So we have built a session factory. So I have a session factory here. Make Eclipse to declare this local variable and open the session factory dot open session. So what you got is a session reference. Now session dot begin transaction. What you get is a transaction reference. Now persist. So here what happens, the object employee going to be persist in the database as a record in the table. So I'm going to say session dot persist of employee. Now commit the transaction dot commit session dot close. So we are going to test this feature. Ensure that Hibernate configuration file is complete with driver URL JDBC MySQL localhost database username password and the Hibernate mapping file name is spelled correctly. And in Hibernate mapping file, we will mention the class name employee, table name, primary key, employee ID, first name, last name. And now in our main method, we are going to test this feature. An object of employee DAO dot add employee of employee object. So I need an employee object equal to new. I use the constructor with first name, last name alone because the primary key is auto generated. Jagadishwaran Rangappan. Added. So let us run this program. Hibernate dialect must be explicitly set. So we have set the Hibernate dialect in this and MySQL dialect. org Hibernate dialect MySQL dialect is set already. Okay. So for this, let's find a fix for this. Okay. So here we have an option to mention the configuration file configure method. So what I do is configure and I mention the file name Hibernate configuration XML file. So this will allow the Hibernate to take the dialect from this configuration file. Now I run this program. XML file not found. Now, as I told you earlier, the configuration files must be directly present in SRC folder. So move these files to SRC folder. Run this program. Now the transaction is in progress and you are getting this message mapping exception employee class not found. Now you see this class employee belongs to a package called model. So in your mapping file, you'll have to specify that employee as model.employee. This is significant. When I said this configuration files belong to SRC and the class belongs to a package called model, you will have to mention this package name here explicitly. So that's the relationship here. Now run this program. Now you got the message added. Now let's go to this database and refresh this database and you see the table is created now EMP. Let us check this from the backend. Select star from EMP and you are able to see this data. Employee ID is auto generated and the data Jagdishwaran Rangapan is added, which I have given in the Java program. And you notice that the table name is EMP instead of employee as mentioned in the configuration mapping file. For the employee class, the table name is EMP. And you notice the first name and last name are the properties in Java and F name and L name in the table. F name and L name, UNE18. So this is the first chapter in Hibernate. Practically, you learn how to create a small Hibernate program to make the Hibernate framework, create the table and insert a record in the database. Hope it is very useful for you. Waiting to listen to your feedback. Thank you.